Alright, very warm welcome back everyone. Today I want to go on with talking about music theory, but we talk about intervals in this one. And we've learned one of those intervals already, which is basically the octave. Each of these intervals has a complementary interval which is needed in order to get to an octave again. So for the octave, you cannot really add anything to that. So we have an interval that is not really one, but only consists of one note. And this is called the unison. You also have intervals that are then indexed by the step on which they are presented in a scale. So you have the second, the third, and this is very inventive, of course, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, and then you have, of course, the octave, then 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and then the 14th, and the double octave again. So this is for basically 2 octaves, all the intervals that you can get. And it is usually the case that you don't really need many more of them, because 2 octaves, as we will see later on, come in quite handy if you want to split your chords over 2 octaves, and then it will repeat itself. But we can also talk about all the other types of intervals that we can have. If I just said, well, this is the second, the third, and so on, this is true, yes, but all of these intervals have some sort of character to them. So the first thing is we have major and minor intervals, and then we can have diminished and augmented intervals. For the diminished and augmented intervals, they can only be produced on intervals that would be natural by some, for some case. And these are the intervals 1, so the interval that is not really 1, the 4, the 5, and the 8. So I'm not going to call them names now. So the 4, the 5, and the 8, or the octave, and the 4 and the 5 are the ones that you can do that you can make diminished or augmented. So especially what you see is when you diminish the 5th, so this here, and you augment the 4th. Of course, this is the same interval from a different perspective, but this interval is very prominent because it splits your octave into 2 parts, 2 exactly equally as large parts. So if you count, intervals always have some sort of step associated with, or some length associated with them, and you can count them in half steps. So if you count up until this F sharp or G flat, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 half steps. And if you start counting from this F sharp or G flat, whatever you would like to call it, up to the C again, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 half steps again. So this interval, which is also known as tritone, and we'll get to tritones later on when we talk about enriching your chord progressions and enriching your sounds, this tritone is very important because it allows you to change your character of the music in quite an impressive way. So this is the diminished and augmented intervals. We are talking about the C major scale here, and then we also have major intervals in the scale. So which means that this second I'm talking about, or this second, is a major second. And so is the third, so is the 6th, and also so is the 7th, right? And apart from this D, the character the character for the for the minor scale will change for all of these other major intervals, right? So if we look at the A minor scale here, we see that we have a major second again, but then we have a minor third. So we do not have 4 half steps, but we only have 3 half steps. 3 half steps here. We have a minor 6th, just count it if you want to, and you have a minor 7th here. And then you have the octave again. And this is not an accident, because minor and major scales deviate from each other in these characteristic places. And if I'm just playing the C minor scale for you now, so you can basically see what's going on, this is C major, and this is C minor. And what you see is that you have 3 notes that are lowered here, and and I also talked about you find the parallel minor scale to a major scale if you go 3 half steps down from your root, of your major scale. And this is actually not an accident, right? Because you can see it right here, that the minor scale would have these 3 lowered notes that you have to do, these lowered notes as steps that you would have to do to reach your parallel minor scale. And what you see here is that you again have the minor third, the minor sixth, and the minor seventh interval here. And the thing is, you can also do this for multiple octaves. We have talked about the minor intervals and the major intervals for 1 octave now, but of course it holds that this interval, the 9th, the 10th, and also the 13th and 14th interval can be major or minor intervals, as well as the 11th and 12th interval can be or are natural intervals, right? So then you have your interval split over 2 octaves, which means that you also can enrich your sound even more if you calculate for all of those. One thing that is very prominent, especially in jazz music, is, for example, this 9th, and you see that you have a nearest neighbor to this 9th. In the manner that you have the D flat here or the D sharp. So this means you have the natural 9 or the major 9 here, you have the minor 9, and then you also have the augmented 9 over there, which all of those are notes that you can use for your arrangement.